Namaste, everybody. So today we start on the second chapter of Patanjali Yoga Sutra. It's called Sadhana Pada. And as always, before we start, very quickly summarize what we have covered up till now. So we finished with the first chapter, Samadhi Pada, in the last talk. And the first chapter, Patanjali has addressed to a advanced yogi, a yogi who has already developed samadhi prajna or meditative consciousness. He has developed a consciousness where very easily he can or she can get into a meditative state. So he addresses that yogi in the first chapter. And he first defines yoga as chitta vritti nirodha. And the background to this is that, we have a chitta, we have consciousness, and the essential, true, pure nature of that consciousness is absolute stillness. And because there is no disturbance, that consciousness simply exists. And again, because there's no disturbance, it is blissful. And since there is absolutely no disturbance, it has got infinite knowledge. Okay, these are not qualities of consciousness. This is what consciousness is. Existence is not a quality of consciousness. Bliss is not a quality of consciousness. Knowledge is not a quality of consciousness. Consciousness is all that. Okay. However, we worldly creatures, we living in the world, we samsarins, we do not experience it that way. We experience our lives as our thoughts, our emotions, our feelings, whatever our sense perception brings into us. This is a flower, this is this, this is that. So we experience our consciousness as being conscious of something rather than consciousness itself. And why is that? Patanjali says because our consciousness is constantly getting modified by sense stimulus coming in, as well as our inner mental activity of thoughts and emotions, right? And these modifications kind of, create ripples in the consciousness, and therefore its stillness is kind of obscured from us. And he says there are 5 classes of vritti. One is right knowledge. Right knowledge, what is right knowledge? You see a rope and your sense tells you, eyes tell you it is a rope. So it's right knowledge. But even right knowledge will disturb the consciousness. The second is wrong knowledge. You see a rope and your eyes tell you it's a snake. It's wrong knowledge. But even that will cause a disturbance, cause a vritti. Third is a imaginary knowledge. You see a rope, but you see a goblin. So, and goblin is non-existent. So it's a imaginary knowledge, right? Or no logic, as in deep sleep. In the deep sleep, the mind also folds up. There's no objects, but there is a consciousness of no consciousness. So there's a consciousness of no knowledge. So that also is, the consciousness is active. That also is a vritti. And finally, past knowledge, which comes through memory. So these are 5 classes of vrittis. And he says the method of subduing the vrittis or suppressing the vrittis is abhyasa and vairagya. Constant, uninterrupted practice of yoga and sadhana, and vairagya, slowly getting detached from worldly things, right? And he says these are not forced. You kind of move slowly, and it happens naturally, right? Once vrittis are controlled, then the sadhaka starts preparing for samadhi. So vritti nirodh is the negative aspect of yoga, while samadhi is the positive aspect of yoga. And what is required for samadhi is, they say, shraddha. That means you approach your whole sadhana, the whole knowledge, with with a devotion, right? Virya, you need a very strong intent that, I want to achieve samadhi. Smriti, you need good memory because, you have to remember mantras and things like that. And you need what we call samadhi prajna. That means you need a consciousness which is ready for samadhi, which can get into meditative state very, very fast. Okay. And to achieve these things, to achieve this, the recommendations are things like japa, Ishwar pranidhana, pranayama, concentration on a mantra. These are the techniques which help to develop the samadhi prajna and also overcome obstacles for samadhi. We saw that any sadhak on this path will face some obstacles like health issues and various other things, which are also the 9 obstacles which he lists. And how to overcome this, these are the techniques: japa, Ishwar pranidhana, pranayama, mantra. These are the techniques, right? But these are inner techniques. Externally also, we need to protect ourselves. Our consciousness gets disturbed by people, by other people, by the interaction of other people. So how do we not let other people's drama, so-called, so say, contaminate us? Is through the 4 bhavas: Maitri bhava, Karuna bhava, Mudita bhava, and Apeksha bhava. With the different kinds of people. He talked about that. So Patanjali talks about that. And this ensures that, our consciousness is not disturbed. And the process of samadhi itself moves from vitark to vichar to anand to asmit. And finally is by grace, nirbij. Basically, again, to just summarize this, we move from reasoning to observation, to reflection, to bliss, to egolessness. And so when we start meditating, we meditate with reason, with our mind. What happens is, normally, these are not segregated for us, but in the first stage of samadhi, your chitta, or consciousness, your mind, and the object of meditation. Suppose the object of meditation is Shiva, for example. Then these 3 get distinguished in meditation, but your mind is still working. Mind is still projecting its conditioning, its memory, its past impressions about the object on the object. So you're not able to see the object as it is, but what your mind projects. But what is happening at this stage is the mind, chitta, and the object have got distinguished, which in normal situation is not. It's all clubbed together. We don't know what is happening, right? The second stage is observation. So what is observation? In observation, your consciousness directly is observing the object, Shiva. The mind has gone. So there's consciousness, stream of consciousness flowing towards the object. So there's object and there's consciousness, object and chitta, right? The mind has gone. This is observation. But now the mind is not projecting its own conditioning onto the object. You are observing the object as it is. So this is the second stage of samadhi. The third stage is reflection. Now, I want to again distinguish between observation and reflection. So observation is when the consciousness is observing an object without the interference of the mind, without any mental interference. But reflection is that object has seeped into the consciousness and completely flowed into it. It has flowed into it in such a way that for us, a sadhak doesn't know whether he or she is looking at Shiva or Shiva is looking at him or her. That is reflection. And finally, the object goes and only the consciousness remains. And because again, that stillness has come, there is bliss, ananda. And then even the sense of I, that that ego sense goes completely, that is asmita. But the seed remains, the bij remains, bij of your past karmas remains. right? And the destruction of that is a grace of the divine, is the Ishwar's grace. There's nothing you can do about it. You have reached the most you can. Now just live your life and hear the birds, and that nirbij will come to you as a grace of God. So this is what happened in the first chapter. Second chapter, now Patanjali addresses the middling yogi and the novice yogi. So the middling yogi is addressed with what the topic of today, which is Kriya Yoga, right? And the novice yogi will be addressed later as the chapter progresses with the very famous Ashtanga Yoga of Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. Okay. So this is the content of the second chapter. And today we will talk about Kriya Yoga. So like always, I'll just share my screen and I will just show you the shlokas. So I'll be covering two shlokas today. The shloka number 1 and shloka number 2 of the second chapter. The first shloka reads, Tapa Swadhaya Ishwar Pranidhana Ani Kriya Yoga. It means self-purification, self-study, and self-awareness through surrendering fruits of work to God is what constitutes Kriya Yoga. And the second shloka says, why should we practice Kriya Yoga? It said, Samadhi Bhavna Artha, Klesha Tanukaranartha Cha, for developing Samadhi consciousness and thinning the cause of afflictions, Kriya Yoga is practiced. In the next talk, I will be talking about this afflictions or kleshas. What are the 5 human afflictions that we have, which keep us away from achieving liberation? We'll talk about that in the next talk. Okay. So the first thing about Kriya Yoga, and Kriya Yoga is addressed to a yogi who has gone through Ashtanga Yoga. He's done his asana, pranayama, pratyahara. He started doing his dharana, dhyana. So it is addressed to that person, and the objective is to thin the kleshas, to thin the afflictions, and to develop samadhi prajna. That means they develop the ability to get into the meditative state just by closing your eyes and taking a few breaths. You can get into a meditative state, and then you can start moving towards the practice of samadhi. So tapa or tapas, it means to burn. So we say na tap gaya. Delhi mein itni garmi hai ki hum tap gaye. Okay. So to burn, to generate heat and to generate energy is what is tapa or tapas. Tapa in in common parlance, what we understand tapas or tapa as is asceticism, austerity, penance, torturing the body, basically torturing the body. But it may be the case in some sampradayas. So, for example, Jain monks, they follow very, very hard, harsh practices. They do that. It's their sampradaya, But yoga does not promote this. So it does not promote very harsh asceticism or harsh austerity, etc. Right? Because yoga, the belief, Patanjali believes that your body is the vehicle for you to attain liberation. It's through the body that you attain moksha, right? And therefore, the body has to be nurtured. So yoga is not into fasting and all that. It doesn't promote fasting. Just normal good diet, your good exercise, that's good enough, right? And it is the sensitivity of the body which translates into samadhi prajna. The sensitivity of the body that translates into spiritual progress. It's a bedrock of spiritual progress, sensitivity. Your sensitivity is the one which helps you, the spiritual consciousness grows on sensitivity. And this very harsh, asceticism, it kind of kills the sense, it blunts the sensitivity, which therefore is counter to the philosophy of yoga. So yoga does not mean, tapas does not mean severe austerity, severe asceticism, or severe penance. It does not mean that. It is a process to eliminate imperfections that we have, the kleshas that we have, right? It is the process to eliminate our attachments, our aversions, our fears, all this more that keep us bound to the world. So tapa is the process of eliminating these, right? Number one. And number two is also starts burning the seeds of karma. So you are not giving into your desires, you're letting desires take its own course. You're letting the river of karma run. You're not acquiring new karmas. So this is what tapa does. And the root cause of all these afflictions is really avidya. We'll cover this in more detail in the next session. But the simple definition of avidya is taking the unreal to be the real, taking the world to be reality, and rejecting the real as imaginary. So if the Shastras tell you this world is unreal and Brahman is the reality, we say we don't know. We haven't seen Brahman. How can we believe that? It's unachievable. So that is avidya. And everything else, all our afflictions stem from avidya. Because of this avidya, we get attached to things in the world. And all our fears are based on avidya. All right. So that's the major, the major affliction we have is avidya, right? So what is tapas in yoga? So it's a practice of yoga. It's a practice of hatha yoga. It's a practice of pranayama, the bandhas, mudras, dharna, pratyahara. So all the practice of yoga is tapas. And it works at the psychic level. So many of us have had this experience that we are trying to fight a bad habit, but the bad habit gets the better of us. So any of you who have tried to give up smoking, for example, will know what I'm saying. You try to suppress the desire to smoke, but the desire hits you back with a much greater force, right? So it has to be cut at its psychic root. And to cut it at the psychic root is what tapas does, right? So it is the yama, the niyama, asana, pranayama. It gets to the root of the problem. Now, also why the yogi is encouraged to lead a simple life with a feeling of contentment. Because the more complex we make our lives with our possessions and our networks, the more complex we make it, the less sensitive we get, and indeed we have less freedom, right? So therefore, austerity is not an imposition. There's a logic to it. There's a logic to it. And by all, austerity does not mean, again, as I'm saying, austerity does not mean to starve yourself, to torture yourself, nothing of that sort. But make your life as simple as possible. We don't need very complex lives. The more complex your life, the less free you are. So this whole tapas, what it does is it burns the seeds of your ego. It burns, it kind of mellows your desires, and it therefore allows you to move in another direction. It allows you to go inwards, to meditate, to find the bliss within. Okay, so that is what tapas does, and that is the first thing which a yogi who has gone through Ashtanga yoga and all will have to practice. Practice tapas, practice reasonable austerity, practice all the yogic techniques to kind of subdue his ego, to mellow his desires, right? And to be in a situation where the karma is flowing and not adding to it. So this is what tapas is. Now, tapas is what will free up energy for you. So right now, what's happening is that in normal course, our energies are dissipated in going after things, in going after whatever your ambitions are, your love, power, money, whatever it is that is, putting you in a worldly pursuit. All your energies are going there, and energy dissipating over there. With tapas, you conserve that energy. So you have a lot of energy within you for yoga, because yoga, even inner meditation and inner observation needs energy, and tapas is freeing up the energy. Instead of you dissipating it, you are storing it, and it's being used for that. So the first thing it's used for is swadhyaya. Now, swadhyaya, one meaning of swadhyaya is the study of the scriptures, study of the shastras. But in this particular case, Patanjali uses the word to mean self-study, or to use a modern jargon, mindfulness. Completely being present in the present moment and observing what is going on within you, right? So etymologically, like when you say study your body in a mirror, it's called adhaya, right? And when you study your inner mental operation, it's called swadhyaya. So, as I said, tapa, it clears the mind space of, your outward tendencies, outward tendency acquisitions. So it clears that mind space, and it gives you the mental and spiritual energy required for self-study, self-observation. So it requires, self-study is fixing your awareness in the moment, and that energy which is freed from tapas is used in this. So the energy has moved from the lower chakras to the higher chakras, right? And once it's in the higher chakras, then we are in a position to just observe our thoughts, observe our feelings, observe everything which is going on within us without getting triggered by them. It's just pure, plain observation, right? And when you observe, your whole inner structure of the personality at all levels, at the physical level, mental level, emotional level, spiritual level, is revealed to you. So you get self-knowledge, and there is healing. Just by observation, not getting triggered by, your subconscious, there is healing, right? So it's a process of, therefore, uh, it's a process. Swadhyaya is a process by which you actually see the mechanism of the vrittis, the mechanism of the modifications. So you are able to kind of, at one level, at one time, you are like Just you are your thoughts, you are your emotions, you are your desires, and here you're separated from them. Your consciousness is here, and you're just observing your thoughts, desires, without indulging them, just letting them be. So that is Swadhyaya. The third aspect is Ishwar Pranidhana. So again, the normal meaning of Ishwar Pranidhana is the surrender of the fruits of action to God. That means you do your actions and then you don't worry about what the results will be. Whatever the result is, you see it as a prasad of God and you accept it. You see the prasad of Ishwar and you accept it. A very extremely good attitude will keep you very content from within, very free, very calm. It's a very, very good attitude. But here the word is used in a slightly different way. It is about self-awareness. So tapas frees up the energy which is being used to battle our mundane existence, suffering, thoughts, etc. And the practice of yoga detaches them. Practice of yoga detaches the consciousness from the drama of our lives so that we can just become observers of what's going on in our life. And once that happens, it reduces the hold of our ego. So ego is the one which is propelling our ambitions, our desires, our fears, our lust and greed. All that is sort of coming from the ego. And we can just see all that as a witness, as a sakshi. So basically, Ishwar is that inner awareness, that self-awareness of the functioning of the ego is Ishwar Pranidhana in this sense. And it frees up the mind. It makes us open-hearted. It makes us bold to flow with the current of karma. And it fills us with trust. So just with trust, you move wherever your karma is taking you, and you are unafraid. You kind of have an inner sense that Ishwar is your deep inner consciousness. Your Ishwar is taking you in the right direction. You are in the right place at the right time. So this is the three steps. So tapas is basically the different practices of yoga, and what it does, it kind of curbs your outward tendencies. It kind of smoothens out your fears and your uh, attachments and aversions, right? And it kind of frees up the energy for inner work. And the first step of inner work is then Swadhyaya, where you start observing how your psyche is working, how your mind is working. You're observing your thoughts, you're observing your desires, you're observing your behavior. So that is Swadhyaya. And Swadhyaya, then it leads to the next level of very, very deeper inner awareness, where you're present in that moment, and your subconsciousness is not driving you. Okay, so this is Kriya Yoga. And what is the purpose of Kriya Yoga? Is twofold. One is that because your whole energy is freed from the drama of your life, you develop a calmness of the mind, and you develop samadhi prajna. That means you have kind of subdued the vrittis, vritti nirodha. You have achieved to such an extent that you can get into samadhi prajna. You have a meditative consciousness. And the second is it kind of subdues, it kind of thins out the kleshas. We'll not go into the details of kleshas just now, but kleshas are afflictions, and they are pain bearing. All of them are pain bearing. And so this practice will kind of thin the kleshas out, and it'll go to the root of the kleshas and deal with it over there. Okay, so the twin purpose is to develop samadhi prajna and to thin the kleshas. All right, so this is where I'll end today's talk. Any questions, I'll be happy to take.
Dr. Sahab, namaskar.
Namaskar.
Bakshi from Delhi.
Yes.
Our body, I think we can compare with a mobile. When mobile is jammed with a lot of applications and a lot of virus and other things, when you clean up, then it functions smoothly.
Correct.
I think same thing you were trying to tell to while doing tapas is also like tapasya. Can we say tapasya or not?
Yes, you can say that.
Yes, so in that process, you also said contaminating, disturbing things which will disturb your mind, not to allow you go further. So is there a precondition for going to that stage towards samadhi is to find a secluded place or maybe like a jungle somewhere on the mountain or where there's no disturbance?
No, not at all. No, you can live with a family, with your children. You can go to your work. You have to give up nothing. Yes. Can you just, in 24 hours, can you free 1 hour? 1 hour is to yourself.
Okay, then one time has to be then selected, like subah 4 baje.
That is good to develop discipline.
Yes.
Yoga doesn't care. Yoga doesn't care whether you do it at 8 in the morning or 8 at night.
That's true.
But from your own perspective, if you first say, the first thing you have to say is there are 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
1 hour in a day, I'll be selfish. I'll give it to myself.
For adhyaya or
for yoga. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
1 hour in a day, I'll give it to myself. So that 1 hour in the day, you look at it like how you charge. You took the mobile phone example. You charge your mobile phone in the morning for 1 hour. When it's charging, you don't use it. So for 1 hour in the day, you are charging yourself.
Okay.
Right. So you develop that discipline.
Okay.
And then you start wherever you start. I mean, when you start in the beginning, you do your asanas and so on and so forth. As you advance, you do different things. But 1 hour a day you give to yoga.
Okay. But Kriya Yoga is a better process to go through.
No. Aisa kuch nahi hai. What I'm saying is the way Patanjali has structured Patanjali Yoga Sutra is that in the first chapter, he has addressed the advanced yogi. The advanced yogi has gone through some years of practice of yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara. He is into dharana, dhyana. He's in that stage. He has thinned his kleshas. He has kind of has a good control over the vrittis, so that he has a reasonable control. He's like in Bhagavad Gita, it says, how the 5 horses, the 5 senses and the range is in the control, right? So he has come to that stage where he can control it. The horse is not running wild. All right, your desires, your 5 senses are not running wild, right? You're not impulsive, you're controlled. So he addresses that yogi with samadhi. He tells you that when you go into samadhi, these are steps which will occur. And the brilliance of Patanjali is that something as occult as samadhi, he has structured it. Is an amazing.
It is.
Something very unstructured, completely unstructured thing as samadhi, he structured it, which is fantastic. To explain it to you, to explain it to us, right? So that's the first chapter addressed to that. The second chapter, this Kriya Yoga is addressing the middle yogi. That means the yogi has gone through your yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, right? And he is not yet reached the stage where he can get into a meditative consciousness.
Hmm.
So to him or her, he is saying, practice tapa, practice swadhyaya, and practice Ishwar pranidhana.
To
You
clean up
practice,
kleshas.
yeah, you practice this, and then you will be able to get samadhi prajna very easily. Later on in this chapter, we address the just the ordinary people, the novices who are
No.
who will get into yoga with Ashtanga yoga.
Okay. Okay.
So don't look at it as this is superior, this is inferior. It's a
Okay.
process. It's a process.
Mhm.
So wherever you start, you start at the lowest end. It's like going through kindergarten through class 12.
Mm.
Right?
Yes. 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 True. But it is stepwise.
It is stepwise.
Yeah. Thank you.
Unless, but he also makes exceptions.
Hmm.
So he says that there are some people who are born with past life karma.
Hmm.
So like somebody like Anandamai or somebody like Ramana Maharishi.
Hmm.
They didn't need any guru, nothing. They were like enlightened almost from the time they were born. They were enlightened as teenagers, 14, 15 years old, both of them.
Hmm.
So we're not talking about that kind of person.
Hmm.
So we're talking about the ordinary people.
Yeah.
So ordinary people, he has said these are the steps,
Hmm.
right?
It's not
So
easy to clean up all those kleshas and vritti, and one has to go through all this process.
one has to go
Obviously.
through the process.
Hmm.
One has to go through the process. Number one and number two is what I talked the last time is your at one level you think I am doing it, but another level your consciousness itself is pushing you in the direction.
Okay.
So at some stage, your higher the levels in your consciousness. So a higher consciousness saying, "Bahut ho gaya, I've had enough of this, all this nonsense of worldly life. I want to go higher." So that higher consciousness is breaking out, and pushing you in the direction. So
Okay.
everybody, for example, who's attending this talk
Hmm.
today, that we are engaging in this subject.
Hmm.
So why are only some of us engaging in something and some of us are not?
Hmm.
Because the people who are not, they will come here and say, "Ye, what is this nonsense?"
Hmm.
They will not relate to it. But the very fact that you're relating to it means that your higher consciousness is breaking through,
Pushing.
pushing, and we are at different levels. That's all.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah.
Looking for a guru like you.
No. Guru will happen. Don't worry. Guru will happen. I just read Patanjali Yoga Sutra. It touched me. I'm just sharing it so that
It's amazing. It's
it
amazing.
it will
It's
push you in some direction. That's all.
It's really fantastic. It's very.
Very useful, very useful.
Bhaiya, may I interject, Bhaiya?
Yeah.
Okay. I think because you give us the blessing to open your discussion or interaction. तो क्या मैं experiment करूं in a way
somebody
that
is on the phone. Can you?
I think phone. राहुल भैया आप देखिए तो आपके बैकग्राउंड में है क्या?
Somebody, but I see all the mics, everybody is muted.
नहीं. विनय भाई आपके बैकग्राउंड में आवाज आ रहा है?
नहीं.
राहुल भैया आपके बैकग्राउंड में फोन पे बात नहीं हो रही है?
मैं म्यूट करके देखता हूँ.
हो गया ना?
हाँ.
तो
Okay, come. हाँ.
तो मैं ये कह रहा था कि now that you have opened up the session, so may I call upon individually people to having spent the time that they have spent the time, because we have so sweetly touched one thing. जिनका higher level होगा consciousness का, वही सवाल कर सकते हैं. Otherwise वो खाली सुनेंगे और वो यही कहेंगे they cannot relate कि क्या हो रहा है. तो मुझे मालूम है कि राहुल भैया, रमेश अन्ना, विनय भाई, ये सभी काफी हायर लेवल के हैं कॉन्शियसनेस के. तो इफ यू परमिट, आई विल रिक्वेस्ट देम कि वो अपने तरीके से one inquiry, one question, whatever, one curiosity that they wish to have their, because it's a wonderful thing that you are available during a talk show and they are here to ask you something. So if you permit, may I ask them?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I will start with.
I think Vinay put up his hand. You want to ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Vinay bhai, aap shuru kare, please.
Just unmute myself. Okay. Sir, as a beginner of Swadhyaya, I just want to know as to how we can part from our thoughts. Because when we go into this, a lot of thoughts keep coming, How can we get parted from all that? Is there any trick or is there any tip from your side?
Practice of yoga. आप योगा करते हैं?
जी, मैं करता हूँ.
बस आसना कीजिए, प्राणायाम कीजिए. Itself, the whole practice itself will make you reach a stage where the intensity and the frequency of thoughts will reduce.
That is what is desired actually.
Intensity and frequency will both reduce with the
that
practice.
Means if I'm sitting for say 20 minutes in my dhyana, I average it out that almost 2 seconds or so, I get full attention, full concentration of my mind. Rest of the time it goes here and there,
Very good. So, okay, one misconception we have about dhyana is that dhyana means to stop your thoughts. Your thoughts will never stop.
It never stops.
It will never stop.
Exactly. That is what.
What will happen is that, your consciousness will separate from the thought. That's all. Thoughts will be flowing. It's like the sky and the clouds. So the clouds will keep going, but you are not in the cloud. You are in the open sky looking at the cloud. I think he's gone. What happened?
Suddenly he got delinked.
He got delinked.
Okay, we can.
But to his question, basically the whole yoga practice is completely. Rahul Bansal is a fantastic teacher. The whole yoga practice is completely structured in that fashion. When you do, but with yama and niyama, you are uncomplicating your life. You are learning to be, being content with what you have. Okay. So if you have a good car, very good. If you don't have a top end car, still very good. So the thing is, it's not, yoga is not against a good car. If a good car is in your karma, and if your karma has rewarded you with samriddhi, accept it. It's the attachment to it. It's being driven by it, which is the problem. That I must have a good car, I must have this, I must have that. That is the problem. If you have it, very good. Keep it. Okay. So that is not the problem. The attachment to it is the problem. Wealth is not the problem. Wealth is very good. If you have wealth, you have a comfortable life, you have all the comforts, it's excellent. But attachment to it is the problem. I mean, a person who is equally comfortable living in an ashram and living in a 7-star hotel, that is the reward of yoga. That's the reward of yoga. But a person who says, whose whole persona is defined by staying in a 7-star hotel, that is what yoga tries to work upon. Okay. So to your question, Vinay, it's a practice.
Yes, sir. I lost actually a few minutes in between.
So that's why I'm just repeating it. So
Yeah.
the practice is structured in that manner.
Yes, yes.
So when you do the asana, your body is a restless body is calmed down, stabilized. So once the body is stabilized, then your breath is stabilized. When the breath is stabilized, your mind is stabilized. So
yes.
So it will happen. It will happen automatically. Number one, and number two is what they're saying is that abhyas. That means do the practice regularly.
Yeah.
That 1 hour a day. Everybody is muted, but somebody.
नहीं वही विनय भाई के बैकग्राउंड में आ रहा है.
Oh.
There was something.
If you can mute
So
yourself.
Yeah.
So the abhyas, which is that 1 hour a day, the disciplined practice, and vairag. As you do the abhyas, slowly vairag will happen. Slowly dispassion. Slowly, that non-attachment to worldly things. And again, I was saying, wealth and comfort and all that is not a problem at all. It's your karma. It's Ishwar ka prasad. Is very good. Being attached to it is a problem. I can't do without it. That's a problem. Wealth by itself is not a problem. Nothing. Wealth is nothing. It's a neutral thing. You have done good work in this life, in your past life. You're blessed with wealth. By accept it as a gift of God. Yeah.
Possessiveness should not be there.
The wealth should not. There are two things. One is that you consume your wealth and your possessions, and the other is those possessions and wealth consumes you.
That's not happen. Yes.
You consume it. It's fine.
Sadhan ho wo, keval sadhan rahe wo.
Atul, I just wanted to ask you one question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Atul?
Yeah, I can hear you.
It is so easy to say that one can do tapas and try and practice it to a level where it becomes conscious in yourself so much that tapas could be for anything that you specifically want or anything that you don't want anymore, and you want to sort of keep a state of mind which is very calm and serene, absolutely, not bothered by what's happening in the world around. Now, what is happening in my case, I'll tell you a simple example is, I decide, okay, today morning when I get up at 5:30, from 5:30 to 6:30, I'm not going to do anything except sit down and just concentrate on one little dot, maybe a candle lighting, maybe something, just focus on that. That's it. But I'm not going to even do that. I don't know why, because within 2 minutes, my thoughts go into, why did I have a cup of tea? Oh, should I go for somebody's calling the bell? I must just answer the bell, because wife is sleeping. So I'm saying, like you say, in the house, it's very easy to do. I don't think it's very easy, because even when I'm actually in almost isolation in my own house because of my problem, I still find that there are so many distractions here. It's not easy. Whatever you're told is absolutely correct. But to implement it, I think you really have to be a Madhvacharya or Acharya or some guy who's very clear about what he wants in life here. Samjha, na? What he wants in life. We are not yet clear that much clear. We don't know. We are still not clear as to why we are listening to you. What is the advantage? You'll take advantage from here. Can we carry forward some information from your take that you are studying so hard and telling us in such simple terms? Can we do that? Yes, we can do, provided our mind also comes to your frequency. Yeah. For you, it took 3-4 years for you to get that level. It may take us 3-4 months to even understand what it is.
So it comes down.
A simple thing like tapas, because in tapas.
Rahul will answer you. Rahul.
I just want to add to that. That's the nature of the mind. By sitting alone in a quiet place at 4 a.m., could be in the jungle or could be in your room, is not going to make any difference, because the nature of the mind is such that it will be always like a monkey. It will always keep jumping. Now, what yoga does is, it is a blueprint of how you can stop the vritti of the mind, the jumpiness. For example, the asana, the mind needs the asana. It's not only the asana that, you know, when you're doing an asana, it has an impact on your mind. So when you have the breath, these are the tools basically. So you have the breath, you have the asana, and when you're practicing, it will automatically create an environment of meditativeness. It's very difficult to tell, to just say sit down and meditate. It does never happen.
But does it come more easily when you're in a group? You know, when you're in a group and a guru is there sitting in front of you, and then he tells you to do certain things, then, you know, suddenly your brain can shift and go into one state. Like I used to attend a lot of art of living classes with Guruji, and I just go to total transcendental meditation से भी ज़्यादा ऊपर कहीं तो चला रहा था. I used to meet Lord Krishna in the sky. I used to meet all kinds of people. I traveled from Earth to maybe millions of miles away in a matter of seconds because I flew with Krishna. I'm just saying it looks stupid, but I felt it. You know, that kind of a thing. I didn't do anything extra except when I was doing what Guruji was saying, or something was happening, and we were all put into meditative sleep, and then suddenly I went off into this tangent where I was playing with a small Krishna as a boy. Anyway, let me not. I think that's not fair. I am just taking away your time. I just want to tell you that today I'm in a state where I'm unable to focus. Yes, somebody was mentioning that yoga does help you to focus. So can somebody guide me as to who would be a good yoga or an online consulting agency which tells good, simple, not complicated. I don't want to do anything because I cannot do also. I just want simple breathing exercises, meditative exercises, something which I can pull myself into one strong little rock, you know, that kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
कोई है? कोई है तो बताइए.
I'll give you.
I'm sure Atul ji can help you with that.
I'll give you a contact to Bihar School of Yoga. You can start the 30-minute classes. But just
Bihar School
of Yoga, yes.
And also KYM is
KYM
running,
Ramesh
Krishnacharya Yoga Mandir.
He lives in Hyderabad, Ramesh. So if you have
if you can just WhatsApp me that names of this contacts of this.
But just disclose your health issues, Ramesh.
Yeah.
Disclose your health issues to any yoga teacher you were to meet. You must disclose your health issues. So he or she will tailor the program accordingly for you.
Okay. Right.
So I mean, in general, to your question is, you don't start with concentration. It's not going to happen. When your body is not ready, you can't sit quietly. Your breathing is all haphazard. It's not going to happen. So as Rahul was saying, you have to go step by step. You know, asana, pranayama. You know, you go step by step. It takes years. It takes. But
then we'll miss all. But then we'll miss all your talk here. What are you teaching? What are you teaching? You'll not be able to implement now.
That doesn't matter. Next life I implement. अगले जन्म में implement करें. महावीर को 13 साल लगे enlighten होने में. और गौतम को 12 साल लगे enlighten होने में.
हमको तो enlightenment नहीं चाहिए. हमको common sense से एटलीस्ट काम करना चाहिए यार. Common sense तो एक जगह होना चाहिए ना. वो भी नहीं आ रहा है. Problem वो है. How to get
you can also slip
mind
back
in control.
You can also slip back
in the path of yoga.
You can slip.
You can slip back. You can slip back also.
Your intention
even
has
the
to
best
be very,
even the best of yogis.
And that's what I'm saying.
Slip back.
So you say intention. That's what I'm saying. When you say tapas tapas rings that bell in me that, unless I have the consciousness of tapas in me to say, bloody, this is not required, this is what I want, very clearly in your mind. That is the stage 2, what Atul was saying. Tapas mein, then only I can really sit down. But I didn't know the cleaning process still happens with respect to yoga and other things that the breathing exercises karke. You come to a state where you sort of sit in one place.
You have to come to that stage.
In 10 minutes, you are in a trance. In 10 minutes, you're in a trance. So I think it's nice. It's nice to talk about this really with you guys.
Ramesh brother, Rahul Bhaiya, if I may just interject on the lighter note, obviously. कि बड़ा सीरियस बात हो रही है तो मैं तो बीच में इंटरजेक्ट करूंगा। अभी अतुल भैया ने बोला 12 साल और 13 साल महावीर जी का और बुद्ध जी का। राजीव आनंद को 1 महीना लगा था अतुल भैया के चरण में मैं मत्था टेकता था, मुझे सारी ज्ञान मिली। and trust me, I can meditate very well.
Wow, very good.
मेरे को कोई डिस्टरबेंस, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं, कोई दिस नहीं, कोई दैट नहीं। He can tell me concentrate, I can. He can tell me contemplate, I can contemplate.
Very good.
तो आप लोग गलत जगह पे जा रहे हैं। गुरु आपके सामने है।
हमने तो बोला ना।
अतुल भैया को पकड़ लीजिए, वो आपको मोक्ष तक दिलवा देंगे।
Look, I wish Atul had started this classes some 10 years back, so that by now we would have become adequately enough to sort of engage. Meaning.
No. There are, the guru will appear when the time is right. Don't worry.
True.
Okay.
Abhi, his dialogue is guru will appear when the time will come.
Yes.
But I actually went out of my way to not only locate my guru, but actually pull him out. You better be my guru. And Atul Bhaiya did not have any option, but he had to agree.
Very good, sir. Very nice.
Atul Bhaiya, if on this note, if
we can just we can switch off the recording.
Okay. I can switch off the recording and then
we can. I want to have 1 minute chat after that, after the recording.
Definitely. I'll just switch on. खाली वो formal of Ashok Bhaiya, formal ending.
हाँ जी. Thank you, Dr. Atul Sinha ji. It was wonderful, blissful talk on Adhyaya and Swadhyaya, and we are looking forward to your next session, next episode also. Thank you so much for your taking out time for this beautiful presentation. Thanks a lot.
Namaskaram.
Namaskaram.